So Elizabeth Warren recently went on Rachel Maddow's show to explain her endorsement of Joe Biden and also talk about a potential VP pick. So let's take a look and see what she had to say.
My conversations with Joe Biden long predate this presidential race. They predate the 2016. We've had a lot of conversations about how we build an America going forward with lots of different pieces and parts to that. Now that I'm no longer in the presidential race, I had a chance to resume a lot of those and to start a bunch of new ones. Because look, we both want the same thing. We want this country to work and we want it to work for everyone. So I'm in this fight to help in any way I can, to help on the policy front, to help by getting out there and talking about it, shoot, to help by telling people, go to joebiden.com, pitch in your $5, send some text, volunteer some time. Because it truly is the case. We are all in this now. And we have seen the importance of having a leader that we can count on in a crisis. It's not Donald Trump, it is Joe Biden.
If he asked you to be his running mate, would you say yes?
Yes.
I'm so happy you just gave me a concise answer to that.
So you just saw there, no hesitation, Elizabeth Warren. Yes, I'd love to be the VP choice for Joe Biden. And by the way, not just there, not just with Rachel Maddow. We've seen her on other shows. We've seen her writing stuff, talking about how great of a running mate she'd be. Wow, she'd be so amazing of a running mate, talking about herself. And we've seen this from Stacey Abrams, talking about how she would be an excellent running mate for Joe Biden. By the way, not just Elizabeth Warren, not just Stacey Abrams. We've seen Amy Klobuchar. We've seen Kamala Harris. We've seen Katie Porter. We're seeing everyone who maybe sort of kind of in some possible world might be a VP choice for Joe Biden, talking about how great they'd be, talking about how amazing they would be as VP. Veep stakes are on. But what are progressives saying? What are progressives running around saying? Well, I want to remind you guys of this article that came out from Ryan Grim a couple weeks ago, over a month ago, actually, at this point, where he basically lays out how Elizabeth Warren should be endorsing Bernie Sanders, and not just for him, but for herself and for her own movement as well. And this article basically just goes through how Elizabeth Warren really brought herself into politics, how she really made a name for herself by fighting against the big banks, and being, a progressive kind of champion or whatever. Personally, I was never, I never really thought that Elizabeth Warren was like a huge progressive, but I did think that she was a serious ally to the movement. I did think that. But anyway, so sort of talking about how that's how she made a name for herself, and also making a name for herself by going against Joe Biden and talking about how Joe Biden is really connected. Joe Biden's really, sort of friendly with the big banks. That's how Elizabeth Warren made a name for herself. That was her brand. That was the thing that she came into politics all about. And so Brian Grimm arguing that Elizabeth Warren should endorse Bernie Sanders because that would be the right thing for her to do for her movement if she wants to maintain credibility, if she wants to have the reputation, continue to have the reputation that she built a name for herself on. Well, we just saw this article going around talking about how the progressive movement is wary of Elizabeth Warren as a VP choice. We saw this here over the past week. The progressive groups Root for Action quietly began circulating a letter to other left-wing organizations calling on Joe Biden to nominate Elizabeth Warren as his vice presidential pick, and the reception was divisive. The reception was cold. Not a lot of progressives, not just progressive group, but overall just progressives in general, not super happy, not super warm to the idea of Elizabeth Warren being the VP choice, not something that we could really endorse, not something that we're really super in favor of. Now, other progressives turn around and argue, look, I don't like what Elizabeth Warren did. I think what Elizabeth Warren did was wrong. I think that what she did was bad, and not just because she refused to endorse Bernie Sanders, being more interested in playing politics, trying to get favors with Joe Biden, but also by calling Bernie Sanders a secret sexist. We're not happy about that. But these progressives argue, look, I mean, Elizabeth Warren would be a better VP choice than Amy Klobuchar, or a better VP choice than Kamala Harris. That's the argument. That's what some people are saying. Look, personally, I don't agree. I'm not too happy with this idea of bringing in Elizabeth Warren. I don't see, as VP, it's not super clear to me, what choices, what options she'd really bring things she'd be able to really do. But, I do agree that she would be a better VP choice than Kamala Harris or Amy Klobuchar. But honestly, that's debatable. Like, that's really debatable. Like, I mean, Elizabeth Warren, all the choices that we've really seen from her over the past couple weeks, and not actually past couple years that we've seen from her, with her refusing to endorse Bernie Sanders last time around, being more interested in possibly getting a serious cabinet choice from Hillary Clinton, maybe kind of sort of, or getting the VP pick from Hillary Clinton. Maybe sort of, kind of, basically, that she was basically more interested in playing politics. Elizabeth Warren said that she's just a player in the game, saying that she's a capitalist to her bones. I'm not so sure, like, how different of a VP choice she would really be than Amy Klobuchar or Kamala Harris, especially when you consider that, like, the vice presidency doesn't have like a ton of power with it. I'm not sure that there would be like a huge difference. But I mean, you could argue like that, like, would Amy Klobuchar even do anything at all other I mean, I see the argument, but I'm not so sure like how compelling it is. But I think it does just go to show like how little the establishment like really understands progressives, because they're running around saying that like, oh, we should pick Elizabeth Warren or Katie Porter because those are the people who will really appeal to progressives. And I think it just, it's really similar to this thing here that I pulled up here. Reaching out to the left, Biden calls to lower the Medicare age from 65 to 60 and forgiving some, with serious means testing here, forgiving some student debt. We saw that. I made a video about it at the time. I mean, it just goes to show you like how little the establishment like understands us, how they're just not interested in listening to us. I mean, one of the things that I talk about on this channel is how the left has always in principle objected to means testing, saying that that's just something that's wrong, because the left isn't just interested in bringing out like a specific package of, policies and proposals. We're also interested in reformulating the way that we think about government, the way that we think about politics. We want to bring in a new system, bring in a new world. And the only way that you can do that, progressives argue, or the left argues, is that we need to get rid of this idea that all of our programs, all of our packages need to be means tested. The left has always believed in universal programs because we say that, look, certain things should be a right. I mean, you talk about the right to healthcare, not just the right to access for healthcare, but the right to, healthcare itself is a human right. And so we say that, look, people should not, just in principle, people should not have to go bankrupt to pay for healthcare. People should not have to pay for healthcare, in the first instance. I mean, it should be just provided to everybody. You shouldn't have to pay, free at the point of service. That's the way that the left has always talked about it. The left has always talked about their issues. And so what do? They give us a seriously means-tested program. Honestly, centrist, good advice for you, centrist, if you want to have any chance, you should actually try to listen to us and talk about, listen to things that we're interested in us and find a universal program that progressives would actually like. Find some universal program that you're willing to do and then offer that. And I guarantee you'll get at least a warmer reception than what you got to offering 65, lowering the Medicare age from 65 to 60, where AOC came out and said that this is almost insulting, right? Like, I'm not saying that you're going to get my vote or that you're going to get other progressives their vote, but you'll at least get a better reception than just lowering the Medicare age from 65 to 60, because it just shows that you don't understand us. You're not listening to us. You don't care about us. And it's the same thing when you're running around talking about a VP choice like Elizabeth Warren or Katie Porter, which, by the way, guys, if you're watching this, just so you know, the big banks, Joe Biden was circulating, talking about the different VP choice, and a lot of the big banks who donated to Joe Biden's campaign, a lot of the big donors, saying that they're not so happy, they're not so sure about the idea of Elizabeth Warren. So Elizabeth Warren, too crazy for even them, too crazy for them. So they're probably not going to, so Joe Biden's probably not going to do that one. But I mean, even if, I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But it's completely crazy, and it just goes to show you how they're not interested in us. They don't really care about like listening to anything we have to say. They haven't offered us anything. I mean, these proposals that they're talking about are so weak sauce, so pitiful. Try doing a serious climate change proposal, and I mean, look, Joe Biden, get on board with Green New Deal. Say you're not willing to do Medicare for all, get on board with the Green New Deal, like a full throttle Green New Deal. And look, we can have a conversation about you earning my vote. But that's the real point. You got to earn my vote. It's not just there for you. I'm not just going to give it to you. You have to earn it. So anyway, that's just what I want to talk about in this video. If you like the video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thanks.